SOLs coming up. Today we'll do another paper, which is the grade 7th Virginia SOL. This is the 2009 Mathematics Standards of Learning paper that was released in 2014. So you can just go online and find this. So let's get started. You see the directions 1 through 7 are non-calculator and 8 through 50 are calculator section. So you could use a calculator. These are sample questions, but let's just quickly do them. What is the solution to 2x is equal to 6? Obviously, you want to get rid of this. You divide by 2 because there's a multiplication. Divide that by 2. 2 get cancelled. X is equal to 3. So that's pretty straightforward. Let's look at this one. Stephanie ran 3 miles in 30 minutes. At this rate, what is the total number of minutes it'll take to run 2 miles? So it's 3 miles in 30 minutes, and 2 miles would give you how much? The best way to do is always cross multiply. This is basically the unknown factor x, so 3x is equal to 30 times 2. X is equal to 30 times 2 divided by 3, 10. That is equal to 20 minutes. Remember x, the units is minutes, so that's what it's going to be. Okay, now we get to the main paper. Which of the following is true? The best way to do it is you unfortunately have to look at each of these things. Sometimes, if you get lucky, the first one is true, but sometimes not. But just the best way is to just solve for this. So look at A, it's minus 10 plus 14 is equal to 4. So this is right. So you really don't have to go any further. But if you want to, you could double check. But hey, you got that. That's pretty straightforward. What is the square root of 400? Remember the way I've taught you these square roots? Always use factors. So 400, because it's an even number. Let me tell you the long way, and then I'll tell you the quick way. Always a factor of 2, so 2 times 200 is 400. Now, I can't reduce 2 any further. Of course, it's 2 times 1. It's a prime number, so we'll circle that. Now, 200, you do this again. This is 2 times 100. You circle that. This becomes 2 times 50. All these things are basically 50 multiplication signs. There is that. And then you've got 2 times 25. And 25 goes 5 times 5. So now you collect all these circled numbers. Yeah, you could do that. So that's 400 is equal to, I'm just going to write it out here. 2 times 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. So times 2 times 2 times the 2 5s. Square roots obviously count in 2s. So that's 2, that's 2, that's 2. So 2 times 2 times 5. That's 4 times 5, which is 20. So that's the square root of 400. That is how you would solve for it. It's pretty straightforward. But here is another quick trick. You know that 400 is, 100 times 4. Now the square root of 4 is simple. That's 2. The square root of 100 is 10. That should be easy. So square root of 400 would be 10 times 2, which is 20. That's another way you can do it. But always learn the original way, which is how do you take a number and break it down into factors. This is going to help you with your least common multiples, highest common factors, and a whole host of other problems. But this is also just another way you could do that. What is 0.1234 4 zeros and 1 2 written in scientific notation? Essentially, this is looking at exponents. So you could see from the answers it's all 1.2. So let's count the number of decimal places to get to 1.2. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's essentially 1.2 times 10 to the power of, because it's a division, it's 10 to the power of negative 5. Remember that. If it's 10 to the power of 5, it means that it's positive, so that should be 1.2 times 10 to the power of 5. Just for an example, what this means is 1.2 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If it's 1.2 times to the 10 to the power of negative 5, then it becomes 1.2 divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you do this, you're going to get that. So just remember this. These are two different things. Obviously, the answer is A. Arrange the three numbers shown in the order from least to greatest. So first, the way to do it is just look at the powers of 10. So that's 10 to the power of 5, that's 10 to the power of 5, that's 10 to the power of 8. You want it from least to greatest. So obviously this is the greatest. 10 to the power of 8 is greater than anything else. There is no other sign. It's not a negative. So this should be it. Last one is 3 into 10 to the power of 8. Now, 10 to the power of 5, 10 to the power of 5 is same. So what is left? 4.7 and 5.2. You should look at these two numbers. Obviously, 5.2 is greater than 4.7. So 4.7 into 10 to the power of 5 is the least. Then I've got 5.2 times 10 to the power of 5 is the second one. And obviously, I have the third one. So that's how you solve these problems. You don't have to write out every single thing if you want to. Which list of numbers is arranged from least to greatest? These are the types of problems that we've done over and over again. The best way to do these things is to reduce everything into decimals. These are all the same numbers, so I know 0.25, that's pretty straightforward. That's 0.25. 17% is basically 17 by 100, that's 0.17. And 2 by 9 is essentially, let's just do this. It's going to be simpler for us. 9 2s are 18, 2 2 recurring. So it's basically, these are the three numbers you have. 0.17, 0.22, and 0.25. So it's the least to the greatest. So obviously 17%, wherever the 17% is the first, that should be the first one. This you can rule it out, this you can rule it out, these two. Next comes 2 by 9, and then comes 2.5. So this is it. Okay, look at this one. Every time you see a problem like this, remember PEMDAS and the way I taught you, which is you write these M and D and A and S together as brackets. So whether it's multiplication or division, whatever comes first on the left-hand side, left to right, that is what you operate on. Okay? So now let's take a look at this. The reason why they've put these brackets here is just to show that these are negative numbers. So it's negative 15 minus negative 18 divided by 3. Obviously, multiplication or division comes before addition or subtraction. That's what you have here, subtraction. So do this operation first. So it's minus 15 minus 18 divided by 3. I'm just going to put it like this. These are arrows to show what the next step is. Minus 15 minus 18 goes into 3 6 times, so that's negative 6. So that's minus 15. Now minus of minus, because we're opening up the brackets, is plus 6. So that should be minus 9. That's your answer. Okay, it's a pretty straightforward thing. What is the square root of 1? I mean, it's 1. 1 times 1 is 1. So it's that. Now we get to the non-calculators part of the test. Oh, test ends here. So now probably you can use a calculator, I suppose. Yeah. Let n represent any number in the sequence. Okay, so this is a problem for sequences. The best way to look at it is first spend some time thinking about what these numbers and how they're related. So here I'm just looking at this. Remember, there are just 4 basic operations. You add, you subtract, you multiply, you divide. It's got to be one of these 4 things generally. Sometimes it's an exponent, but most of the time, it's if you can get these 4 things, it should be pretty straightforward. If it is an exponent, it's going to be very simple. So for example, something like 2 to the power of 1 or 2 squared or 2 cubed, so that's 2, 4, 8. But even that can be broken down into times 2 kind of thing. So let's take a look at this. If I want to get from 2 to 24, I can multiply it by 12. 24 to 46, this is really not a clear multiplication. So let's see if I can add something. So 2 plus 22 is 24, okay? 24 plus 22, that's 46, okay? So 46 plus 22, that's 68. So it's basically the number plus 22. So n plus 22, this is it. Hopefully that's clear. Which number sentence is represented by this model? Okay, first thing, look at this one. It says each negative is equal to -1. So these are 3 negative ones grouped together. So that's one group. So it's a one group of 3, -3 negatives. Do you see that? It's one group of 3. That's -3, that's -3, that's -3, that's -3, that's -3. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 groupings, each group has a -3. So 5 groupings, each has -3. That should be, obviously you should know this, -3 times 5 is -15. Yeah, keep that in mind. Negative times negative is always positive, and negative times positive or positive times negative is always negative, and obviously positive times positives is always positive. So this is what it is. Minus this, so there are 3 negatives of 5 groupings, that comes down to 15. So remember that. Just think about it. It is not -5 or so that's ruled out completely. This looks correct, but again, if you have 5 groupings of -3, this should be -15, not +15. That's why that doesn't work. So this is the correct answer, B. Okay. Clarence made a scale drawing of a classroom. The scale in the drawing is 2 inches. Oh, the scale in the drawing is 2 inches, represents 9 feet. Let's look at these units. Units are always important. 2 inches represent 9 feet, okay? The actual length is 36 feet, okay? What is the length of the classroom on the scale drawing? What is this? Remember the cross multiplication type I taught you? The unknown is basically x, so cross multiply. So that 9 times x is equal to 36 times 2. X, if you want to get that, it's 36 times 2, which times is also multiplication right here, divided by 9. 9 4s are 36, so that's 8. That's 8 inches. This should be it. What fraction and decimal are equivalent to 10 to the power of -3? So remember, 10 to the power of -3 is the same thing as 1 divided by 10 to the power of 3, which is nothing but 1 divided by 1 by 3 zeros. So, which is nothing but if you remember this, the way you do it is just move 3 zeros. The decimal point is here. So 1, 2, 3. The decimal point. So these are filled with zeros. So that's the same thing as 0.001. So it's 0.001 or 1 to the power of 10 to the 1 divided by 10 to the power of 3. So this is it. It is not minus, because it's an exponent, so that's a minus, and once it goes to the denominator, it becomes positive. And this is 0.001, and none of these things. I don't know how they get even 3. Just trying to confuse you, but this is the right answer. This is pretty straightforward. The absolute value of any number is the number itself, so it's negative 8.2. The absolute value is just 8.2. That's it. Another pattern. Again, it's plus, minus, subtract, exponent. Let's see. 5 times 4 is 20. 20 times 4. Oh, this is pretty straightforward. 20 times 4 is 80. 80 times 4 is 320. So the common ratio, the ratio is 4. It's not 15. The difference means negative. So if I had 5 minus 4, that would be 1. That is not what it is. They're definitely not 15. So don't just do the first one. Make sure that you do everything else. So because sometimes people think, oh, 5 plus 15 is 20, so that's great. But what happens if you add 15 to 20? That becomes 35, not 80, so that's not 15. So just make sure that you keep that in mind. Kelly receives 25% discount on a purchase of a $240 bicycle. What's the amount of the discount? So that's what they're looking for. What's the discount? 25% is nothing but 25. If you don't know this, always break it down into simple fractions like that, which is nothing but 1 by 4. 25 goes 4 times into 100, right? So that is your total discount. And it's $240. So what is the discount? 1/4 of that. That goes into it 60 times. So that is the discount. So Kelly received a discount for $60. Now, if there was a question which said, how much did Kelly pay? That should be an interesting thing. Then it would be 240 minus 60. They ask you these trick questions many times, so be very, very careful. Then that becomes 180. So you see, you do have an answer called 180 here. So read the question. What is the amount of the discount Kelly received? Not what is the amount that Kelly paid at the end. If there was a question that said, what is the amount that Kelly paid at the end? It would be 180, not 60. So read the question, understand what is it that they're trying to ask. What is the number sentence? Which number sentence is represented by this model? All right. Again, this is a grouping of -4. 0 to -4 is -4. 4 items, 4 negative items, 4 negative items. So let's see how many groups there are. 1, 2, I'm just going to write them down. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there are 7 groupings of 4 negative numbers that equals -28. This is it. It's when you have 7 groupings of 4 negative numbers, you don't get, remember, it's negative times positive is always negative. So it should be -28. That's what you basically have here, which shows that it's -28. And it is not -7. This is another thing that people get confused, because it's not 4 groupings. You have 7 groupings, and each of them is just, there are 4 negative elements in each. So take note of that. What is, again, this represents absolute value. That means, what is the actual value? 11 by 12. That is that. There is no sign. Okay, let's look at this. What does this say? The length of a rectangular prism. Okay, so this is 6 inches. If the length of this prism is multiplied by a scale factor of half to create a rectangular prism B, the volume of this is going to be what? Now, volume of a prism is nothing but length times width times height. All that you're doing is that you're cutting the length by 2. So this is volume A. Volume B would be L by 2, which is half, times the same width and the same height, because that hasn't changed. So obviously the volume has gone down half. It's a simple factor of half. So let's see. Half the volume of rectangular prism A. That's right. This is it. It's not twice because my length is decreasing. If your length is decreasing, obviously your volume has got to decrease. So always double check. These are tricky questions sometimes, but pretty straightforward if you understand the concepts. Which statement is false? You'll have to evaluate everything. All squares are rectangles. Yes. A rectangle is something that has 4 sides and they are angular at right angles. A square is something that has just all sides are equal. All squares are parallelograms. Yes, because both sides, opposite sides, are parallel to each other. All rhombuses are squares. All rhombuses are parallelograms. Okay, if you don't know what a rhombus is, you should. It's basically something like a kite, and where these two are parallel, right? So these two sides are parallel and these two sides are parallel. So they are parallelograms, but they're not squares. That means this angle is not equal to 90 degrees. It could be, it can be sometimes, but it doesn't have to be. So just be careful about that. All rhombuses are not squares. This statement is false. That's what they're looking at, not what is true, what is false. This was an interesting problem. KLMN is rotated 180 degrees clockwise about the origin. It's basically, this is the origin, this is O, yeah? And then it's rotated clockwise. That means it's basically a reflection of that on this side. So what would that become? Now, K here is essentially, what is it? -8, 6. So if you were to reflect that, basically the X sign changes because it's being reflected along this line. So you can look at it, it kind of flips over this way. So that's going to be +8 and -6. So C should be the answer. Let me know if you've got any questions on this and if you've confused in any way. Here it says STV and XYZ are similar. What does similar mean? That means they are of the same proportion. So the angles are similar, the sides are similar, so that means they are proportional. Angles and sides could be proportional. Which pair of segments corresponding sides of these triangles? Okay, so look at that. STV is ZXY. So it's just important to note which way it's going. This is your STV and this is ZX. So this is your 90 degrees. Looks like it. That's what it looks like. This is obviously the hypotenuse. The way I would just write it out is VT is similar to XY. This is your base. ZX is similar to ST. And then YZ or ZY is similar to the SV. That's your adjacent. So you just need to pick one of these things. So you could, if you pick ST, then it should be ZX. So pick this or this. If it is TV or VT, the same thing, pick XY. And if it's ZY, pick SV. So that is what is similar. The dimensions of four rectangular prism are shown. Identify each of these prisms for which the maximum amount of sand the prism can hold is 30 cubic inches. So what they're asking you to do is to calculate the volume. You know, the volume is nothing but length times width times height. So you basically say 15 times 2, 30 times 2 is 60 cubic inches. Inch cube, you can write it that way, or CUI as well. But you want to say it needs to equal 30 max. So that's 3 times 3 times 1 is 9. 5 times 3, 15. 15 times 2 is 30. This is 30 cubic inches. 6 times 5 is 30. 5 times 1 is 30. So this is 30 inches. So these are the two answers. Sometimes you will have questions where you have to select more than one. So make sure if they give you an option that you double check everything so that you're not just selecting one. Okay, you could calculate this and say, hey, I'm done. No, you should always check this too. A rectangular prism is a height of 3 inches and a volume of 27. This is inches and cubic inches. The height of this prism changed 6 inches. Okay, so remember the volume of a prism is essentially length times width times height. What is the volume of the prism with this change? So look, all that you're doing is the height has gone up from 3 to 6, so this is a factor of 2. Yeah, is that clear? So it's from 3, it went up to 6. So what is the factor by which it's increased? It's increased by a factor of 2. So obviously the volume is also going to increase by a factor of 2 because everything else stays the same. It says the other dimensions stay the same. So it's just basically 27 times 2, which is 54 cubic inches. This is your answer. Again, a rhombus is also a parallelogram. Yes. Is it a rectangle? No. It cannot be a square because all sides don't have to be equal and don't have to be at 90 degrees. Likewise here. A trapezoid? No, it's definitely not a trapezoid because only 2 sides on a trapezoid are parallel. Again, if you don't know what a trapezoid is, it's something like this. A rhombus is something like this, like a kite. That's a rhombus. That's an extra. I don't know why I drew that. Quadrilateral PQMN. So PQMN, so it goes this way, is similar to W. So P is similar to W, X, Y, Z. Okay. So P is basically W. Right, and then you're going this way. What is the measure of angle Z? Z is the last one, so the last one corresponds to N. Let's see what N is. N is 100. That is what it is. I don't like these kinds of questions. They're asking you to pay attention to the direction, and obviously, you know, when you just look at these pictures, they don't look similar. But that's exactly what they're trying to test you, which is, you know, quadrilateral P. So P is going to be similar to W. Q is going to be similar to X. M is going to be similar to Y. N is going to be similar to Z. So when you say, what is the measure of angle Z? It is N. That's what you're looking for. Table shows the dimensions of 4 rectangular prisms. Okay, what is the greatest volume? Again, that's length times width times height. It's the easiest way is just to multiply. See how, given that you have a calculator, this should be pretty simple. But let's see. I don't have a calculator with me right now, so I'm going to try to do this by hand. 5 fours are 20, 20 times 80, 8 is 160. Then I've got 6 times 7, 42. 42 times 12, 480, so that's 480 plus 24, so that's 504. And that's 40 times 12 is 480, this is 480. And then this is 13 times 5 is 60, 60 times 2 is 120. So this is the answer, 504, whatever is R, that's the greatest volume. This is your right. Which numbered triangle is 90 degrees counterclockwise? Remember, so clockwise is this way, just like a clock. Counterclockwise is this way. So if this is this way, I want this to rotate this way. And it says 90 degrees. So remember, this 90 degrees is basically this. It goes down, falls down this way. So if this is at the top, this long thing, long side, that should become the base. See where the long side is the base. Okay, it's 4, definitely not 3, definitely not 1. It's 4 or 2. But then if it falls this way, the small side should be up, not down. So this is not it. It's this, number 2. So that's triangle number 2, B. Okay. The diameter and the height of a cylindrical container are shown. The container is filled completely with cheese sauce. Which of these represent the total number of cubic inches of cheese sauce in the container? Okay, so just looking at the volume of cylinder container, that's basically pi r squared h. You should know this. Now, you know, oh, so you don't even have to calculate that. So you have pi, height is 7 inches. Okay, r squared, remember it's radius. What you have is the diameter. So radius would be half of that. So half of 16 is 8. So it should be 8 squared. This should be at 8 squared times 7 times pi. This one. Many students will choose 16 squared. Please don't do that because that is the diameter of the thing. So it's pi r squared h. So that should be it. Okay. Figure L, M, and P will be reflected across the y-axis. This is the y-axis. So essentially this one, you just flip it over this way. So N, it says what represents the point N dash, which is basically the reflection of N. So let's look at N. N here is 2 and minus 3. So if you reflect this on this, this is where it's going to be. It's going to be minus 2 and minus 3 because it's on the y-axis. So this is where N dash is going to be. Minus 2, minus 3. Okay. Again, similar triangles, always pay attention to what they're saying. P should be similar to S. Q should be similar to T. And R should be similar to U. Okay? So this is the hypotenuse. So, and this is the hypotenuse of this triangle. So 13 and N should be the same ratio. This is the adjacent, so 12 and 36 should be the same ratio. Remember, I'm using if you're going to use one triangle, just go with that. So I'm using the dimensions of this triangle at the top, so always use that. And then I'm going to use the dimensions of this triangle at the bottom, so I'm always going to use that. So 13 divided by n, which is the same thing as 12 divided by 36, which is the same thing as 5 divided by 15. That's what it is. So it says which proportion can be used to find n. Can you see everything here? D, no, probably not. Let me just move this up. Yeah, okay. A little bit. This is all the way to the thing, but I'm just going to move this. Really, hopefully you can see it now. Okay. So 13 by n, 12 by 36, 5 by 15. What can be used to find? So let's see. 5 by 15, yes. N by 12, that's not true. This is not true. N by 12, there's no such thing as n by 12. That doesn't work. 13 by n and 12 by 36, yes, this one works. 13 by n, you just have to use two of these three things. And then 13 by n is equal to 36 by 12. No, it's 12 by 36, so this doesn't also work. But that's the right answer. Okay. Now let's just get rid of these papers. Easier. There you go. The number of 8-ounce glasses of water Shane drank each day for 12 days is represented by a histogram. Okay, so this is the number of days. It's 12 days, okay. Based on this histogram, which statement must be true? Let's do one by one. On exactly 2 of these days, Shane drank 1 to 2. 1 to 2, there's only 1 day, so that's not true. 7 to 8, let's look at that. That's 2 days. So see this line? It's shaded up to here, so it's not 3 days. On exactly 25% of the days, Shane drank 3 to 4 glasses. So 3 to 4 glasses is 3. Now, what is 3? 3 out of 12, because that's the 12 days it is 1/4, which is basically 25%. Okay, so this is the right answer. Again, 1/4, converting that into percentage multiplied by 100, which is basically 25%. Digits 1, 2, 3, 4 are used to make a 3-digit number. Okay. Each digit can be repeated. So that means you could have the same number again and again. What is the total number of 3-digit numbers? Okay, so there are 3-digit numbers, D1, D2, D3. The first digit can be any of the 4, so it can be selected 4 ways. Now the second one can also be selected 4 ways because it says they can be repeated. So I'm actually going to do this in 2 ways. This is repeat, and I'm going to say not repeat, just so that you can see the difference. But this is what we are solving for, because that's what they're asking you for. Repeat 4, and then the third digit is also 4 ways, because you can repeat that. So it's 4 times 4, which is 16. 16 times 4 is 64 ways. So that's 64 ways in which you can come up with that number. If they say it cannot be repeated, now then see what happens. There are 4 numbers. The first time I select, I can obviously select any of the 4. But now that I've selected 4, I can only select 3 of the remaining numbers because I cannot repeat them. Again, I'm just doing an example if in case it's not repeated. And then the next thing, you can only do it 2 times because only 2, you've already used up 1 number here, the second number here, you're left with a third number. So these are the total number of ways. So 4 3s are 12, 12 2s are 24. So if you can repeat, you can create 64 combinations. If you can't repeat, you can only create 24. But this is what they're asking you for in the test. Note that, but also understand how to solve problems if they don't exactly ask you, but they change the question in a slight way. This is pretty straightforward. K is equal to 2. What happens? Always solve the brackets first. Obviously, each of these expressions can also be solved. So k cubed is nothing but 2 cubed, which is 2 times 2 times 2. That's 8. Yeah, that's pretty simple. Now, k minus 10, which is nothing but 2 minus 10, which is minus 8. And then for k is 2 times 4, which is 8. So I'm going to rewrite that. So that's 8 minus of minus 8. Do not forget that. It's brackets plus 8. 8, this thing, when you open up the brackets, it's 8 plus 8. And now this one obviously is just remains plus 8. So that's essentially, this is my arrow sign here, 8 plus 8 plus 8, that's 24. This one. Okay. A spinner has 15 sections. A spinner has 5 sections of equal sizes, okay, P, Q, R, S, T. Fine. The arrow of the spinner was spun 15 times and landed 4 times on the section labeled Q. Okay. So which statement best describes experimental probability and theoretical probability? Okay. So first of all, if it's theoretical probability, obviously how many sections are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, 5 sections. So 1 out of 5. That's theoretical probability. So let's look at this. Theoretical probability 1, 5. It's definitely not 415, so you can rule that out. It's definitely not 415. The theoretical probability is 1 over 5. But in real life, when it was spun, it landed 4 times out of 15. So the experimental, the actual thing, how many times did it happen? 4 out of 15. So the experimental probability is 4 out of 15. Obviously, this is not true. The experimental probability is not 1/5. This is the right answer. Experimental probability is 415 and the theoretical probability is 1/5. That should be pretty straightforward. Think about it. Let me know if you've got any questions. Ethan earns 12 hours per hour. $12 per hour to walk 2 dogs, okay? So $12 per hour to walk 2 dogs, plus an additional $7 for brushing those dogs after the walk. Okay, it says let X represent the hours Ethan works. Ethan works, okay? Okay, so that's per hour, so okay, X. And then Y represent the total he earns. So Y is the total amount he earns. So the question is, what sentence best represents the situation? Okay, so the first thing is, this was a little bit confusing. Even I could get tripped up. This $7 is not per hour. It is just for the total amount. You brush it, it doesn't matter how long it takes, you're just going to get $7. So that's a constant, 7. And then it's $12 per hour. So 12. Now, if Ethan walks 2 hours, then it should get $24. So it's X dollars, so times X. So this is the answer. Y is equal to 7 plus 12X. So let's see where that is. Y is equal to 12X plus 7, this one. Aiden's age is 6 years less than half of Maggie's age. Aiden's age is 4. What is Maggie's age? Any problems like this, please write out that equation. Aiden's age, I'm just going to call it A. This is, actually, let's start with this one, simply because it's going to be, I know this is Aiden's age is 4 years. All right, I'm just going to note that. Then we don't know what Maggie's age is. That's what we're trying to do. It says 6 years less than half of Maggie's age. So let's say half, this is M as Maggie's age. Half of Maggie's age would be divided by 2. And 6 years less than that. So minus 6. That is Aiden's age. You see that? Aiden's age is equal to 6 years less than half of Maggie's age. Generally, you can write it also like this. Again, it's the same thing. It shouldn't make any difference. So A. Now you know that this is equal to 4. A is equal to 4 years, right? So I'm just going to substitute 4 here. M by 2 minus 6 is equal to 4. So that means M by 2. If I want to get rid of 6, take it over to the other side, or add 6 on both sides, that's 10. Now, if you want to get rid of the 2, you multiply both sides by 2, so that's M is equal to 20. So that is your answer, 20 years. Maggie is 20 years old. What is the solution of minus 12x is less than or equal to negative 72? Remember, in inequalities, anytime you have an inequality, this is a very important principle to remember at all times. If the signs change, then this operator changes. If it's greater than, it becomes less to. If it's less than, it becomes greater than. So just be very careful about that. So it's here. Let's write this out. 12x is less than or equal to negative 72. Just to solve this, I'm going to make this all positive. So if I change the sign again, this is going to change. So this becomes 12x greater than or equal to 72. Divide both sides by 12 to get rid of the 12. X is greater than or equal to 12 goes into 72 6 times. So this is what you're looking for. X is greater than or equal to 6, which is this one. So remember, it's not this or any of these other things. The sign changes when you change the sign. The direction changes when you change the sign. Okay, which property is illustrated by the number sentence? Quickly, this is all addition. So anything that says multiplication, you can get rid of. This is not multiplication. It's not multiplication. Associative, it's not distribution of any kind. Associative property, commutative property. This is associative is essentially means grouping. This is the way to remember it. Am I changing the groups in any way? The answer is no. I'm just moving the order of operations. So it was 1.7 plus 3. Oh, sorry, it's negative 1.7 plus 3. And now I'm just changing it to 3 plus negative 1.7. So it's the commutative property of addition. Commute is to transfer or move from one place to the other. That's the way I remember it. So all that you're doing is moving places. That's commutative property. If you want to think about associative property, it's about grouping. So here, let me just give you a quick example. If it's, let's say, 2 times 3 plus 4, something like that. Which represents a solution to this inequality? Get rid of the 5, so subtract 5 on both sides. If I do that, I get 2 here. So all that I've done is to subtract 5 on both sides. X is less than 2. Remember, there's no equal to, so there's got to be a hollow sign. So this is 2, first of all. This would be x is more than 2, x is less than 2. That's what's highlighted. This is your answer. The stem and leaf plots. That was an interesting problem. Okay, let's see. It says which histogram represents the same set of data. Okay, the key, 6-1 means 61. Okay, so that means 6-2 means 62, 64, 65, 67. Okay, so this is the temperature and this is the number of days. All right, so let's look at how they've split it. 60 to 64, 65 to 69, 60 to 64. Okay, 60 to 64, how many do it? So this means 62 and then 64. So there are 2 days. That's 2 days, that's right. 60 to 64 is not 3 days, so this doesn't work. 60 to 64 is not 3 days, it's just 2 days. And 60 to 64 is 2 days. So it could be either A or D, one of these two things. Next, let's see the 65 to 69. 65 to 69. So 65, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. Both these things, again, you don't have to look at these two things at all. This is 6, this is 6, so we won't get any of that from there. That's cleaned up. Next thing is 70 to 74. 70, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are 6 days from 70 to 74. Let's look at that. Oh, this is just 4 days. 70 to 74, this is 6 days. See? So this one works, this one does not. So this is the right answer. Marjorie bought 24 bottles of juice. Each day she opens and drinks 2 bottles of juice. Okay. Which of the following best represents the number of unopened bottles? Oh, they want unopened bottles at the end of D days. So in D days, Marjorie has basically 2 times D, or 2D bottles. That's what she's had, because each day she's drinking 2 bottles. So in D days, it's 2 times D bottles. So what remains? She had 24 initially, minus 2D. So 24 minus 2D. This is it. 24 minus 2D. That is the number of best represents the unopened bottles. Remember, if they'd said how many bottles did she drink, it's just 2D. Okay. Here they want you to create a histogram on the side set. Okay, so 7 to 8. How many are there 7 to 8? That's 1. Is there any other 7 to 8? No. So it all goes up to here. You just color that. That's 1. Now 9 to 10. So 9, 1, 2. I like to cross things off as I go along. 1, 2, 3. So that's 3 things. So that's 3, 9 to 10. And then 11 to 12. So 11, 12. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 4 here. That's 11 to 12. That's 4 here. And then 14 and 13, that's 2. So this is your histogram, basically. A spinner has 6 sections of equal sides, okay? The arrow of the spinner was spun 60 times. On 45 of the 60 times, the arrow landed on a section labeled with a multiple of 4, okay? What was the experimental probability of an arrow landing on a section labeled with a multiple of 4? Now, this whole wording is to confuse the heck out of you. Don't fall for that. You don't have to think about what the multiple of 4 is. If you want to, it's obviously 4, 8, 16, 20. But all that they're saying is out of 60 times, 45 times it fell on a multiple of 4. So what's the probability of landing on a multiple of 4? It's essentially 45 by 60. So that's 15 3s are 45, 15 4s are 60. So that's 3 out of 4, 15. That's your answer. What is the solution of this? Very simple. So x divided by minus 4 is equal to 10. You want to get rid of this minus 4, so multiply this side by minus 4, this side by minus 4. So this minus 4 gets away. This has got to be positive x. This is going to be negative 40. So minus times positive is negative. So this is your answer, minus 40. Which of the following is the algebraic form of the verbal statement? 13. More means plus. Then the product is essentially multiplication. So here it says 13 more than the product of number 4 and a number n. So that's 4 times n, and 13 more than that. So where is that? This one. 4n plus 13. Remember, it's not this. This would be 13 more than n whole times 4 or something like that. But that's not what this is. It simply says 13 more than the product of 4 and a number n. So that's what this is. Table shows the results of 50 rolls of a fair number cube numbered 1 to 6. Okay, so there are 50 rolls. I don't have to count these things. According to the table, what is the experimental probability of rolling a 1? Okay, so this is 1. I can roll it 8 times, so it's 8 out of 50, essentially. So 2 goes in 4 times, 2 goes in 25, so 4 out of 25. That's what it is. A spinner has sections labeled. Okay, you've got W, X, Y, Z, and the faces of a cube are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's a regular cube and a regular spinner. What is the total number of possible outcomes of one spin on the arrow of the spinner and one roll? Okay, so they're looking at the total number of possible outcomes of one spin. So outcome of one spin, it can be any of the 4 sections, right? So it's 4 possibilities. If you want one number from this, one row, it could be any of the 6 numbers from this. So the total number of combinations that you could have is essentially 4 times 6, which is 24. There are 24 possibilities, possible outcomes. That's what it is. Again, the spinner can get 4 outcomes. The dice can get, the cube can get me 6 outcomes, each of them together. So it's 4 times 6, which is 24 outcomes in all. Which value of k makes -5 is greater than k plus 11 true? Okay, so you're basically solving for k here. So -5 is greater than k plus 11. I want to get rid of 11, so I subtract 11 on both sides. That basically means -16 is greater than k. This is basically it. So k has to be less than -16, which value this should be it. K is less than 16. Which table contains the only points that lie on the line represented by y is equal to 5 by 4x minus 3? I mean, there's no other way to do it, but just to plug it in. Let's see if there is a way to shorten this, but oh, look at this. If x is -2, if this is -2, minus, this is negative, y has to be negative, yes? Without calculating anything. If this is negative and this is negative, negative minus negative is going to be negative. Here it says y is positive. That can't be true. Same thing here. If x is negative, y cannot be positive. That's also out. X is negative, y is negative, yes. X is negative, y is negative, yes. So you've automatically very quickly ruled out 2 situations. Let's look at these 2 things. Let's do something simple. The whole numbers should work. So 5.4, y is equal to 5 by 4x minus 3. Now, 5 by 4 is 1.25x minus 3. I'm just going to write that. So 5 times 1.25, so let's substitute x for 4. If I do this for 4, substitute, that's, how much is that? 6. 6 minus 3 is 3. That's not going to work. Am I making any mistakes here? No, 4 plus 2 is, no, sorry. 1.25 times 4 is 5, not 6. Duh. Sometimes it's good to just check with the calculator. So 5 minus 3 is 2, so this works. Let's check this. 1.25 times 5 is, how much is that? 6.25. Minus 3 is 3.25. This says 1, so this doesn't work. So obviously this is the right answer. Yeah, just double check. It's been a long day, and I was trying to do this in my head, but sometimes it's just good to actually put it on paper and say 1.25 times 4. You know, that's 5. Actually write it out. What is the value of n that makes the following true? You're simply solving it. N plus -7 is -77. I'm just going to, in order to get rid of this, add 7, this goes away. This basically means -70. -70 is the thing. That's your answer. Okay, to the last problem of the test. Solve for c. C minus 13 is less than 16. I want to get rid of this, so this is -14, so, or minus 14, so I just add 14 in both sides. This goes away. C is less than, that's 10, 30. C is less than 30. So C is greater than 30. This is C is less than 30. This is it. There you go. If you've got any questions, let me know. Thank you.